Greetings, all my miraculous people out there. I'm Duuz-Diz-Din, and I'm coming at you with another episode review of Miraculous Ladybug. This time, it's season 3 episode, The Puppeteer 2, Electric Boogaloo, as we enter into another fun-filled episode, but also one of the most interesting episodes in my opinion. And I know I say that a lot, but man, this episode has some moments in it I was not emotionally ready for. As Adrienne is getting ready for a trip to the wax museum, and because these trips usually take a bit of time to get through, he would like to request a friend along to Natalie. And so he ends up contacting Nino, and Nino is in the middle of a date with Alia, so he asks if he can bring Alia along, which, Natalie agrees to, shockingly enough. But then Alia decides to text up Marinette, who she invites along for the trip, which, once again Adrienne asks, mind if I bring 3 friends along? Which Alia agrees to, but Marinette is in the middle of babysitting Manon. And, she's a responsible person, so she kind of ends up declining despite how much she would love to just go along with all of this. She is, taking care of a little kid. She's not one to shirk her responsibilities, at least not willingly, so she declines the offer, only for Adrienne to ask if Manon can come along as well. So it's a big day trip for the most part, with Alia and Nino planning to try to get Marinette and Adrienne alone together. Unfortunately, Manon isn't really present of mind, I guess you could say, in terms of the affairs of young love. So she kind of finds the way that all these big kids are acting a little strange and a bit off for the most part. Even kind of pointing out that Marinette has so many pictures of Adrienne in her room, only for, Adrienne to just be like, well, Marinette's really into fashion, so of course she has a lot of pictures of me because I'm in a lot of local fashion magazines, and it's just like, yeah, that's why. But it's just really creating for an awkward situation. But we end up meeting up with owner of the wax museum that Adrienne has gone to. I think it was Veronique, the owner of the wax museum. And apparently, one of the statues on Adrienne's wax figure keeps missing a hand because apparently fans come in and take it, which raises a lot of questions that don't need to be answered. But Alia and Nino are trying their best to plan how to get Adrienne and Marinette together. But Nino isn't really that great when it comes to stuff like this. So, Alia is trying to play damage control by having Nino just say the opposite, because they don't want to get found out. They don't want Adrienne to find out through one of them. They want to make it something that Marinette says to Adrienne somewhere down the line. But, you also have Manon, who constantly kind of feels like nobody's really paying attention to her. But when she ends up, trying to, talk to a figure of jagged stone, Veronique just explains, no, these aren't real, they're wax figures. In truth, we know that these are the actual character models, if you know anything about animation, and having them be wax figures is a good way of just reusing character assets and stuff like that. But as Adrienne kind of talks things out with Nino, Adrienne kind of assumes that Nino wants some alone time with Alia because, so they can be lovey-dovey and all that. With Nino kind of thinking back to what he said to Alia, and unfortunately kind of getting his wires crossed and trying not to spill the beans to Adrienne, as he's not even really supposed to know about the relationship or how Marinette feels about Adrienne. So he ends up kind of putting his foot in his mouth and more or less making it seem like Marinette has no real interest in Adrienne whatsoever. So Nino is just really flubbing this whole situation. Meanwhile, Alia is talking things over with Marinette, who's none too keen on the thought that Nino seems to know about her feelings for Adrienne, which, it's just, I always kind of felt it was pretty damn obvious that Marinette had feelings for Adrienne. Like, it's always shocking to find out that, oh, this is actually a bit of a secret. Like, is it? Is it really? Weird. But Alia is all about trying to get some alone time between Marinette and Adrienne. That's her goal, that's her mission here, for her to finally step up and tell Adrienne how she feels. But it's pretty obvious things will never be that simple. As we get a tour of the wax museum where all of the models are made, where the figures are put together and stuff, with hair that's made from yak's wool, I think it was, yak's hair. And we even see the casting place where you get all the wax just mixed together and melted and all that good stuff. So all these places will play a part, later down the line. So they end up putting together a cast to make a mold of Adrienne's hand as Veronique and her assistant step out for a moment. And you have Nino playing around with Manon, and she wants to end up exploring the museum and basically playing hide and seek for the most part, with Alia and Nino taking her out so Adrienne and Marinette can have some time alone, with Marinette kind of being none too keen on being trapped with Adrienne, but this unfortunately kind of makes him feel like maybe Marinette doesn't like being around him or care about him whatsoever. And Marinette, with her tendency to kind of flub her words and not really say exactly the right thing that she wants to say, doesn't make Adrienne feel any better about it. It kind of really continues to make it sound like Marinette doesn't really see Adrienne as a friend whatsoever. Although what she means is she sees him a little bit more than a friend, but she's trying not to say that in so many words. And when Marinette goes rushing off to the bathroom to, basically get her mind back in the game, Adrienne is determined to get his friendship with Marinette back together. He's really determined to make sure they stay friends. So Plaid kind of suggests that maybe Adrienne should play a prank on each other, like friends want to do from time to time. So as Alia ends up searching for Manon in the heroes wing of the wax museum, she ends up coming upon herself as Lady Wi-Fi, and she kind of starts to feel a little bit weird about the idea of seeing herself as a villain. Like, she understands how akumatization, affects you, but it's kind of hard to see yourself as a villain, like a bad guy, especially considering they're heroes for the most part from time to time, as Rena Rouge and Carapace. But, Nino actually, he's got some game, as he tries his best to put Alia's mind at ease, as saying that these isn't so much a wall of villains, so much as it is a list of people who were helped by Ladybug at some point in time, which is actually a very sweet way of looking at things. It's also funny to see Alia's akumatized self as Lady Wi-Fi and Nino's akumatized self as the bubbler right next to each other. I think that's a nice little moment or an interesting situation. But as Alia and Nino actually end up, embracing in some fun together, they end up accidentally leaving behind Manon, which, she ends up seeing herself as the puppeteer. And, she takes her wand, just kind of, wanting to act out, wanting to play, wishing she could have more control over people so that they wouldn't have to play with her no matter what. These emotions leave her prone to Hawkmoth, as per usual. I mean, Jesus, kids have to be the one most susceptible thing. But kids' emotions are a bit more pure, whereas teenagers' emotions much more complex, which explains why, you see more teenagers get turned. It also helps that we have more teenagers models to go off of. But the Akuma ends up infected the wax wand, and she is once again dubbed as the Puppeteer, this time with a little bit of greater power. As Marinette's in the bathroom lamenting over how weird she is around Adrienne, Tiki tells her to try to act like someone else, like someone more confident in themselves. That way she might be able to muster up the confidence in order to actually tell Adrienne how she feels. Meanwhile, Adrienne is really taken with the idea of pretending or joking around, just, having a bit of a laugh with Marinette. So he decides to act like he is a wax figure in front of her, just to kind of mess with her, just kind of shock her, to surprise her. Unfortunately, Marinette, fully believing that this Adrienne is a wax figure, which, you would be able to tell if this was wax. I'm sorry, I've been to wax museums. No matter how real they are, there's an uncanniness to them, and you can kind of tell when they are not real, especially to the touch. But she starts kind of playing around with this wax Adrienne as it were, and just basically almost declaring her love and getting real close with him and touching him and going in for a kiss as well. And like, she gets that kiss. I'm fairly certain their lips touch, and Adrienne just kind of just like, oh, okay, wow, I was not ready for that, which naturally leaves Marinette so completely embarrassed for all the ways that she was acting in front of him. And it's just like, Adrienne doesn't pick up the clues from this, and I'm just like, dude, you are way too sheltered. I get it, you don't get to go out often enough, you're not able to be around normal people enough. I get it, you are naive, but man, dude, get a clue. Get a clue. As Adrienne feels very bad, like he feels like maybe he took things too far because he doesn't really understand how to be a good friend for the most part. Meanwhile, Olya finds Nino frozen by none other than the wax figure Lady Wi-Fi, and she ends up being imprisoned by the Bubbler, which is also very ironic, as the Puppeteer is all too ready to get Ladybug and Cat Noir's Miraculous. Meanwhile, Adrienne actually really inquires as to whether or not Marinette was being serious about all those very heavily romantic things she was saying to his wax figure. But naturally, Marinette plays it off, just saying, "Oh no, I knew it was really you. I was just having a laugh, usual me, the kidder, and all that," in her usual kind of flabbergasted way, and just really, she's trying way too hard. She's trying just too hard, and how Adrienne doesn't just think she's just some weirdo at this point is also beyond me. Boys do nice for his own good. But this is interrupted with the arrival of Hawkmoth, much to the surprise of Adrienne and Marinette. And as Hawkmoth goes in for the attack, Adrienne, putting those fencing skills to good use, tries his best to defend Marinette and give her some time to escape as the Puppeteer comes over the intercoms, letting them know just what exactly is going on. So while Adrienne does battle with Hawkmoth, Marinette transforms into Ladybug, leaving Adrienne with enough time to transform into Cat Noir, as they quickly deal with the fake Hawkmoth, and realizing that she must have come from they must be in the Hall of Heroes, they go racing down, narrowly avoiding the wax Lady Wi-Fi and Bubbler. And when they realize that the wax puppeteer is missing her wand, they figure that that must be where the Akuma is, in that wand. As all the various wax figures come to life, and Ladybug and Cat Noir do battle, with Cat Noir doing his usual job of complimenting Ladybug to ad nauseum. However, Ladybug actually kind of feels the need to ask, how is it that Cat Noir is constantly able to just say what's on his mind, constantly say how he feels, just unabashedly, with no restraint? How is he just able to pour his heart out at every single turn? With Cat Noir just saying that if there's something important worth saying, you should say it, no matter what. Because why regret never having said it and wondering what could have been if you can just speak your mind, let it all out, and at least know where you stand with someone, which is actually pretty good advice, you know? At least then you'll just know where you're at with somebody and know if they truly care for you, and you might be able to care for them. And as various different body parts come floating down the halls, Ladybug realizes that that must mean that Manon, the puppeteer, is in the building studio. So she goes racing off there, only for Cat Noir to end up being captured by the various different wax figures. But with Ladybug, there is in fact a Cat Noir, and she goes racing off to find the puppeteer. She also brings out her lucky charm, which is some weird stick, a cardboard stick no less, which she can't figure out for the life of her what does. But she ends up running into the puppeteer in the studio, only for the wax Cat Noir to grapple with her, basically almost taking her down and out. Meanwhile, Cat Noir has fought off the various wax figures and tries to get a peck on the cheek from Ladybug, who still seems to be in attendance. And as Ladybug goes in for the kiss, Cat Noir immediately notices the smell of wax on her, realizing that it is not the real Ladybug. And as Ladybug, the true Ladybug, tries her best to get the wand away from the puppeteer, she is ultimately dogpiled on by various wax figures as the puppeteer escapes into the molten wax section of the studio. But Cat Noir comes in to help her out with the various wax dummies, and Ladybug's able to figure out how her lucky charm should actually be used, as Cat Noir pretends to be a wax minion of the puppeteer, and the puppeteer orders him to grab Ladybug's Miraculous, only for him to stop partway through, making the puppeteer think that maybe her wand isn't actually working. And Ladybug reveals that she has the true wand as she goes to break it. However, the puppeteer has captured Veronique and her assistant, threatening to dump them into molten wax. And when Ladybug, gladly hands it over in exchange for their lives, she's kind of tipped off that this Cat Noir is the real Cat Noir when his Miraculous starts to time out, making her wonder which one is the real wand, only for Ladybug to grab the real wand, breaking it, releasing the Akuma, and de-evilizing it, and setting everything back to normal with her miraculous ladybugs. And so Manon has been saved and set back to her normal cute self, and Hawkmoth swears his usual vengeance. And we get to see Adrienne's figure finally all the way put together, and we get to have some fun and laughs with Manon, who finally gets the attention she's really just been craving. And as Nino and Alia are left off and Manon is returned to her mother, things are still kind of uneasy between Marinette and Adrienne, and they not really knowing where they stand in terms of their relationship. But ultimately they both kind of feel the need to apologize, with Marinette apologizing for all those things she said to Adrienne and just kind of trying her best to pass it off, and Adrienne feeling like he just doesn't really understand how to have friends and all that, and just feeling pretty bad, like he shouldn't have joked around with Marinette like that. It's just him feeling that's not the way friends should act, which that's totally how friends act, dude. You really do need to get out more. But they both apologize and, decide to always try their best to be upfront with each other, as Adrienne states that the girl he's in love with doesn't really like him kidding around and doesn't find his jokes too funny anyway. Marinette, not understanding that that person he's talking about is Ladybug, she feels dejected, like, oh, he has someone he's in love with, and that means that's not me, and it's like, girl, you're totally competing with yourself. I'm so sorry. It's the weirdest thing ever. But, now we're kind of on an even, level playing field, as, Cat Noir openly shows his love for Ladybug, and Ladybug's in love with Adrienne, who is in fact Cat Noir, and it's just, oh my god, the weirdest situation. Please have this move forward by the end of season 4, because god, it's so frustrating, as Marinette really just kind of starts to almost take down her various pictures of Adrienne, thinking that, well, he just sees me as a friend, maybe I should give up on this crush. But Tiki tries to remind her that, hey, you don't know what the future might hold. Anything can happen, especially with someone as wonderful as you, Marinette. And, Marinette just kind of thinks back to that kiss she actually ended up accidentally having with the real Adrienne. If anything else, at least she still has that. Not realizing that she's already shared 3 kisses now with the man of her dreams. Once under the control of, what was it? I think they were mind controlled the first time around that they shared a kiss, and Dark Cupid, I think it was. And the second time around was because they were unaware of who each other was in Oblivion, because of Oblivio. So, this is like the 3rd time they have ended up kissing, with at least this time it was like with them knowing who they were and not being in their alter egos for the most part. But man, that situation with Marinette and Adrienne was too much. Too much. Like, my god, and the fact that Adrienne stood there listening to all of that, not realizing that she was just speaking from the heart, was just, oh my god, I was not prepared for that. My body was not ready for any of that. That was too much. Too much. But hey, tell me your thoughts and feelings in the comment section below. How did you feel about that steamy rendezvous Marinette had with the wax Adrienne? And how do you feel about them still recycling old bad guys for the most part? It's very interesting, but honestly, why not? Some of these bad guys have powers that could really be re-explored in fun and different ways in interesting situations, like a wax museum. That's a pretty cool premise and setup for the most part. So it was not a bad encounter with the return of the Puppeteer. And honestly, considering Manon's mental state sometimes as a little kid, I'm not surprised she'd get akumatized more than once. But always a fun time, a good fun series for the most part, not a bad episode, and at least it's a standalone one that's not placed too far out of order, as I think this should actually be episode 21 or something, but that's neither here nor there. So tell me your thoughts and feelings in the comment section below. If you liked this video, leave me a like. If you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike and tell me what I did wrong in the comment section below. Subscribe and hit the bell icon, that way you never miss out on another Ladybug episode review. And if you want to find me on social media, just Google Duuz-Diz-Din. I'm everywhere, for better or for worse. And until the next video, just remember that sometimes just let your feelings be known. Just don't hide them, because sometimes that can lead to more misunderstandings and hurt feelings than you actually that you actually might want. Man, I cannot find the words. That just shows that maybe it's time for bed. Bye-bye.